As long as that's red.
Are we good? Okay. Our speaker this afternoon is Father Matthew Rowling. Father grew up in Bellevue as the second of 4 children. After graduating from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with a degree in fisheries and wildlife management, he entered the seminary for the Diocese of Lincoln and was ordained on May 29, 2010. Since ordination, he has served as a parochial vicar, high school religion and Spanish teacher, and vicar for Hispanic ministry at St. Mary's in Nebraska City and St. Cecilia's in Hastings. After spending several years studying in Rome, Father Rowling returned to the diocese as academic dean and philosophy teacher at St. Gregory the Great Seminary. In his free time, Father Rowling also enjoys running, fishing, a good cup of espresso, and getting wrapped in a good fiction book. Please welcome Father Rowling.
Well, it's good to be back with a number of you in person, and those who are joining online, it's good to have you here. Since we just finished with Mass, we'll just jump right in. Keep in mind St. Joseph on his solemnity and ask for his intercession and prayers. Ron asked me to give a bit of an update on what's going on at the seminary. And this is now my second year at St. Greg's. And I remember even when Bishop Conley called me in the spring of 2019 and wanted to talk about my assignment wrapping up in Rome, coming back to the diocese. And he said, Father, I'm going to have you go live at the seminary. I said, great, no problem. I'm going to have you teach philosophy at the seminary. Yeah, great, no problem. I'm going to have you serve as academic dean. Father Rowling, are you still there? Yes, Bishop, I am. Are you okay with that? Bishop, are you okay with that? Yes. Is Father Eichhoff okay with that? Yes, great. We're on board. Okay. But it's been a real roller coaster the last year and a half. I came back, was teaching at the seminary, doing all the normal things, kind of getting my feet on the ground, how to be an academic dean. I'd been a student for about 25 years. So I know what it means to be a student. I know what it means to be in the classroom, but I don't know necessarily what it means to be the guy in charge of the classroom. So, or to be the guy in charge of the professors in the classroom is yet another level up. So it's been a lot of learning along the way, and that's okay. I remember about December of last school year, I had kind of gotten used to the work of and the pace of helping guys in terms of formation and doing lesson plans on a daily basis to teach the 2 classes I was teaching each semester. And last year, about this time, we were getting geared up, or had just actually wrapped up, with our regular 5-year accreditation process. So you guys may know this. We are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, and it's based out of Chicago. And so every 5 years, we have to put together our documents and prove to them that we're doing all the things we've promised to do and achieving all the objectives and all of the different apparatuses that are required to run an institution of higher learning. So all these things are on the schedule. The team's going to come March 16th and March 17th, 2020. And then March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, they leave at noon. The party starts at 1. It had been a lot of work. So over several months putting things together. And thanks be to God, Father Stoley, who was my predecessor, and Father Eichhoff as rector, and even Bishop Fulda before him, they had done a great deal of work and made my job a ton easier. But about March 12th, March 11th, COVID hits, and then we got to figure out what to do. The team doesn't even come in person. The team comes virtually. And then what looked like was going to be a really easy sort of ride out the rest of the semester. Accreditation's done. Now we just get to enjoy life, just work on a few lesson plans, get the guys to graduation, party, boom, done. This is going to be great. And then COVID. And it was day to day, trying to decide what to do, how to go forward, how to keep classes going. Do we keep classes going? Do we send guys home? How do we do formation if they're at home and they're online? What do we do? And the decision was made, collectively, thanks be to God, to try and keep going as long as we could. Because the reality is, we needed guys to be present physically to continue formation. And if the seminary is more than just a school, if we were just a school, yeah, we could go online easily, no problem. We can do classes, we can do lectures via Zoom, via whatever other online media we can find. But it's not just a school, it's a place of formation, and formation takes place in person, best of all. So we just sort of buckled down and said, this is what we're going to do. And we, because of outside requirements, we decided that officially we were no longer going to be an institution, because there was some finagling with the state requirements for things that didn't give permission for schools to continue. I became very versed not only in academic dean things, but legal things and health matters and things of that nature, all very quickly in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So we were able to keep the seminary intact, more or less. Of the 47 guys we had last year, 45 of them remained after we officially disbanded as a school for the semester. So really, in some sense, we got to graduation. Graduation was only moved up by about 2 or 3 days. And I think among all the seminaries in the U.S., we were probably one of only a handful, if that, of the seminaries that were able to continue in person through the end of the semester. So it was a real joy. It was a real blessing to keep things going and to allow formation to continue for the guys that we serve, the dioceses that we serve, not least of which is our own Diocese of Lincoln. So then the question came, what do we do with the guys in the summer? And this generated a program that had already kind of been on our minds. So the U.S. bishops, following a document from the Vatican from 2016, are looking at ways to improve formation. And so this is a question that came down, all the way down to St. Greg's, of what do we do with our guys? The Vatican is asking for, or looking at the consideration of a possible, what they're calling a propedeutic period. So the propedeutic period, the idea is, instead of going right into seminary and going right into the studies of philosophy like you would at St. Greg's, take a period of time, maybe a couple months, maybe as much as a year, to work on some human things, some relational things, some social things, some spiritual things, before you really dive headfirst into classes and all the other things that seminary requires. So this is in the works in the Vatican. It's already present in a document from 2016. The U.S. bishops are in the process of revising their documents, their guiding documents, which will then tell us what we're supposed to do. So we're kind of in a limbo right now. But Father Eichhoff said, in preparation for this, let's begin to look at what that might look like. So he had the idea. He duped me. One day at lunch, we're sitting at lunch in the faculty dining room, and he says, Father Rowling, I know that you know a lot about human formation. And I'd written, my doctorate had been in the area of moral development and development of character. And he says, you seem to know a lot about this. And so I said, yeah, and I started talking. And he said, what are you doing this summer? And I said, well, I'm going to be around here. He goes, great, you're in. I'm in for what? And turns out he had in mind this program. And so it eventually materialized into a 6-week program in which we start out with an 8-day Ignatian retreat, silent retreat. So give the guys a few days of preparation and then give them 8 days of silence and prayer, meditating on Scripture and then coming into an encounter with God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Then the following 4 weeks would involve daily conferences with either Father Rooney, who's giving the spiritual conferences, or myself giving human formation conferences, and then having them meet regularly with a priest as spiritual director or human formation advisor, and then each week going through those things. And so this became what we now call the summer formation program. And it's kind of our little project that we're trying to grow as a way to possibly prepare ourselves for this propedeutic period if it comes up from the U.S. bishops as something that we need to do. So we had seminarians, which is normally not the case. We had seminarians in-house from August 2019 until the present. Usually in the summers, we get a bit of a breather. We send them off, Graduation, we sort of joyfully send them out the door, and then we say, well, we'll see you in a few weeks, Lincoln seminarians, but you come back to work, and then you drive into Lincoln, you stay at the Phi Caps for the summer, you know? Well, didn't quite happen that way. So we had seminarians for the school year, through the summer, and then for this current school year that we're in. And in some ways, it created some challenges, but in other ways, it was a real blessing. I remember having a conversation with one of the Lincoln men last spring because we had to make the decision to say on Saturdays, when they usually have the afternoons off, that they can't come into Lincoln. And so we said, you can't go to Lincoln on your days off on Saturday afternoons, which they interpreted as you can't leave the house. Okay, fine. But it forced them to have to be around each other. Now, they're obviously already around each other throughout the week, but when they have their own free time and they're free to make their own social decisions, they would sometimes come into Lincoln and hang out together, or sometimes they'd go see old friends or go home to their families or whatever else it might be. When they were forced to sort of stay together, then they had to get creative about what do we do when we're around each other? And one of the Lincoln seminarians, I was talking to him in the hallway one day, and I said, it's probably pretty hard that you're not able to leave and go home. And he's from the city of Lincoln, and I said, you can't go home and see your family. And he said, you know, Father, that's true, but it's really forced us into a position where we have to get closer to each other, and that's okay. Okay, all right, maybe this isn't so bad. So, in spite of the crosses and challenges and things like that, we've seen a lot of blessings coming out from the guys, and they've seen it, and we've been able to see it as well. So, come 2020-2021 school year, which we're in the middle of right now, or almost towards the end of, thanks be to God, we made the decision and said, let's just try and go in person as long as we can and see what happens. We'll monitor it. We'll take the measures, social distancing, wearing masks for the first few weeks. We won't start our weekly apostolates going out to teach in the schools until we're certain that things have kind of calmed down. Things are going great. I even got Father Eichhoff to say yes to let me go back to Rome to defend my dissertation, sneak in, sneak out in a 5-day quick trip to Rome. And we were all very cautious, all very attentive to making sure that we didn't get COVID. So I get a COVID test before I go to Rome. I get a COVID test when I come back. Negative on both ends. Great, excellent. A week later, boom, COVID shows up in the seminary. For the next 3 weeks, we had guys who were sick with COVID. At the worst of it, at the height of it, we had, of our 39 seminarians who were there with us this year, and the 10 of us between the priests and the sisters, I think we had about 9 people up, and everybody else was down sick. So those 9 people were up serving, getting meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, making sure everyone was in place. But thanks be to God, everyone really stepped up, and we just kept going. And once we got through that, nobody really came down with any serious illness. We didn't have to go to the hospital with anybody, and just kept plugging right along. And after that, it was like, well, now we had COVID, so who cares now? So I kind of got a little bit more relaxed, a little more calm, and the tension in the house really kind of cut in a big way, and we were really grateful for that. So the accreditation that took place, as I said before, a year ago this last week, they had to come back for a follow-up accreditation, and this is another real joy of this school year at the seminary. So in March, they came through, and the way that it's arranged is the Higher Learning Commission has 5 major criteria that they say these are the areas that you need to work on. So administration, finances, academics, faculty development, things like this, student affairs. And then in each of those 5 criteria, there's these subcomponents that they want us to consider and then express what we're doing. And if we're doing it to the level that they want us to be doing it, then they're satisfied. If not, there are things we need to improve. Well, over the course of the years, beginning I think all the way back even in 2008, this has been an ongoing process. And the latest, about 2010, I think was, or 2015 rather, was the last time that they were here to visit. They had about 5 or 6 things out of 25 that we needed to work on and needed to improve. And so we knew when they came back, they were going to want to look at those things. And so in March when they were here, they went through and reviewed, and that list of 5 got knocked down to a list of 3. They came back, so they said to us in March, these are the things you need to work on. If we come back in October, which they knew they had to come back in person in October because the Federal Department of Education required it, if you can do enough work on those 3 components, we maybe can knock them all out and say, done. Great, So Father Eichhoff and I went to work from March to October. They came back in October. We presented to them the work that we had done, and they said, okay, great. All criteria, all subcomponents are met without any concern. And so for the first time in about 15 years from when we started the accreditation, the seminary is at a point where Higher Learning Commission is satisfied in all the components and subcomponents that they identify. So we're really grateful for that. We're happy that we've reached that level. And like I said, the work of Father Eichhoff, Father Stoli, Bishop Fulda, and a number of others who helped them out really laid the groundwork in a big way, and our ability to bring it up to 100% compliance with all those things has been a real joy. One of the big things that has come up of late is, well, we were able to add this year, Monsignor Seeker was again asked by Wyoming Catholic College to come out and be their chaplain, and so we were left without a theology teacher. So Father Heaslip, who's down at the Religious Ed office, recently finished up a license in sacred theology, and so we brought him onto faculty to teach the catechism class to the new men. In addition to that, though, Bishop Conley asked Father Eichhoff, and I guess they kind of jointly worked on this project of sending out letters to various dioceses in the area, various bishops, and inviting them to come consider St. Greg's. You probably well know that as of 2017, we added on an additional 10 rooms for students, and so we have a lot of space for a lot of guys, and so we want to fill those rooms. And so we sent out these letters, and we've gotten responses from some people, and so we're hopeful from the possibility of a couple dioceses adding into St. Greg's. So we'll see how it goes. Keep that in your prayers. It'd be really great. As I said to some of you, we're having our discernment weekend this weekend and have about 35 guys signed up from the various dioceses that send. So we're hoping to have a good number of them join next fall. We're looking forward to Holy Week coming up, something more normal. We have all the things with the bishop at the cathedral that we're hoping to be a part of. And so, yes, things are starting to look up. The light at the end of the tunnel seems to be coming. And for the summer coming up, we have plans to work on the driveway. The driveway has not been attended to for a few years, and so it's more like a gravel road at times. So we are going to work on that and repave the driveway. Also, we're going to work on the old gym, get it back up to working order. There's a few leaks in the roof, so we're going to put on a new roof and hopefully solve that problem. There's also as many of you know, probably the new gym is still in the works. The plans are on the paper. We are still lacking a few $100,000. So if anyone knows or has maybe a cool million lying around that you know about, they're not doing anything with, why, well, we'll take it. So, but other than that, I would just say that the seminary really is a blessed place to be. The priests that are there, the seminarians are there, despite the struggles, and especially the struggles that we experienced in the last year. I know struggles that you've experienced in your own lives in the last year have been rather challenging, and yet the Lord has not been stingy with his blessings for us, and so we're very, very grateful for that. So thanks for your attention. Is there time for questions? Okay. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
So
Mike?
What are the seminarians doing this summer? Is it too early?
Oh.
Are they going to do that course again?
Yeah.
The question in the microphone so they can hear you.
Yeah, so the question was, what are the seminarians going to do again this summer? Are we going to do the summer formation program again? The answer is, we're going to go back to a more normal summer. So totus tuus, working at the cemetery or Pius or all the other places they work, living at Phi Caps. The theologians will be in their parish, or will be in parish assignments as they had been in the past. The summer formation program, last year, because there was no totus tuus, we had a larger number of seminarians who didn't have anything to do, and they were interested in doing this summer formation program. Well, this year, because everything else is back on, we got about 4 guys who were interested in the summer formation program, but we realized and kind of thought about it, and we said, you know, having a good, substantial community is really important to the whole program. So what we decided to do is to postpone the program for this summer. So we're not going to have it this summer. Our goal is to wait a year and see if we can amass a few more guys with some interest, and then hold it again next summer. So it's not gone. It's just we're holding off for a year probably tweak it this summer, work on some of that this summer, and then revisit it next summer. So it's still there. We're still going to bring it back because it was a real blessing. Many of the guys that were on the program really said, "Father, I'm not sure I would have stayed in seminary." We had 2 or 3 guys who said that to us, and yeah, Father Rooney had shared that with me, and because I was complaining at times, going, "Why? When am I going to get a break? When am I going to get a break?" And he goes, "Father Rowling, you gave your life to Jesus. He needs to use you. Let him use you." And I was like, okay, I'll save vocations. So no, but cooperate with the grace of God to help these guys along. So yeah, so it's a real blessing, and it's been a blessing in their lives. They've expressed that to us, and so we want to keep it around. So, yeah.
Can you say more about what human formation looks like and
Yeah.
what the goal is?
Yeah.
Where do you get a good espresso in Lincoln?
We have an espresso machine at the seminary. Yep. But the mill's not so bad. So the human formation of the seminary. So the idea is that Father Divish always says, as our spiritual director, he said this even when I was back there as a seminarian, you cannot have a good priest who is not first a good man. And that rather simple principle is based upon a principle from St. Thomas Aquinas when he says that grace does not destroy nature, but builds upon it and perfects it. So when God gives grace to a man in holy orders, he is giving that grace, that aid to him to be able to answer the call and live out his vocation, but only because he has first been disposed by nature. So human formation looks at the nature, it looks at the man and says, how can we make this man a better man? So we look at his interactions with his brother seminarians, his interactions with the priests or teachers that he has, his prayer life, his ability to work, his ability to cooperate in a community activity, his ability to socialize, and kind of helping them along in the ways, because they come to us already formed in some way, because the family is really the first school of formation for every person. And so they come with a lot of strengths already, a lot of virtues, a lot of good habits, a lot of natural goodness, we might say, things that they automatically know how to do. Even just having a conversation, approaching a stranger and having that conversation, sitting in a meal for an extended period of time and continuing to enjoy someone's company that you may not otherwise want to sit with, things like this. But there are also, we know, because of various relationships and various things, that they also come with not so good habits and not so good tendencies. And those are the things we have to address, because those are the things that are the obstacles to helping them grow in natural virtue and human virtues. I think of the main ones. I think of prudence and temperance and justice and fortitude, but there are many others as well. And so the goal is to help them identify those areas where they might be inclined to this behavior or that behavior and just kind of walk through it with them. And so human formation on a practical level looks like having each seminarian meet with a priest, one of the 6 priests or 5 priests who are the formators. So that includes myself, Father Rafael Rodriguez, Father John Rooney, Father Ray Jansen, and Father Brendan Kelly. Meeting with us once a month, twice a month, sitting down, having conversations, talking about how things are going, kind of beginning to say, where am I and how can I get where I want to go? And so those conversations are meant to apply some of those bigger principles into this man's life. In addition to that, we also have bi-weekly conferences for the whole house. And those bi-weekly conferences, given either by myself or Father Eichhoff or Father Rodriguez, are meant to be aimed at some topic on human formation. So for example, we have one that's kind of in the oven being cooked up right now on how to handle anger and frustration and other such emotions. What do we do with that, right, when we get in this situation? And healthy ways to bring calming, bring soothing, things like that. So those are kind of the practical ways that takes place.
So Bishop Connolly is doing another Eucharistic procession in front of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Tuesday of Holy Week. And it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then on Friday, he's doing Stations Across at noon.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome and encourage the seminarians and you guys, the priests, would
Thank you. Yeah, the invitation is extended to go to Planned Parenthood on Tuesday of Holy Week and again on Friday of Holy Week, Tuesday for a Eucharistic procession in the afternoon, and then Friday for Stations of the Cross, both of those with Bishop Conley. Thank you. Any other questions?
With the virus and all that sort of thing going on, and I know some other dioceses are sending their gentlemen to our seminary.
Mm-hmm.
Have they pulled those guys back, or are they still supportive
Mm.
of keeping them here and continuing on with their formation?
Yeah, so the question was, what about the non-Lincoln seminarians we have at St. Greg's? Are their respective bishops and vocation directors supportive of us keeping the seminarians or them wanting them back home? This was part of the debate last spring. In fact, we contacted bishops and said, look, this is the situation. What do you want to do? Our gut reaction is keep them here because formation requires physical presence. But you're the bishops, you're signing the checks, you're paying the bills, you get to decide. And I think Bishop Fulda was the first one to respond, former rector of St. Greg's. And he said, you're keeping them. Okay, all right. And all the other bishops and vocation directors basically agreed and said the exact same thing. They said, keep them there as long as you can, keep the program going. We agree, they need to be there in person for the best formation they can get. And so, yeah, we had a great deal of support. That was also very helpful. We had a great deal of support from the sending bishops and sending vocation directors. Yeah.